أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Verse number 11 of Surah Nisa. يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. Allah enjoins you concerning your children, for the male shall be the like of the share of two females. فإن كن نساء فوق اثنتين فلهن ثلث ما ترك. And if there be two or more than two females, then for them shall be 2/3 of what he leaves. وَإِنْ كَانَتْ وَاحِدَةً فَلَهَا النِّصْفُ. What if she be alone? Then for her shall be a half. وَلِأَبَوَيْهِ لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا السُّدُسُ مِمَّا تَرَكَ إِنْ كَانَ لَهُ وَلَدٌ. And for each of his parents, 1/6 of what he leaves if he has children. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٌ وَوَرِثَهُ أَبَوَاهُ فَلِأُمِّهِ الثُّلُثُ. But if he has no children and his parents are his sole heirs, then it shall be 1/3 for his mother. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ فَلِأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ. But if he has brothers, then 1/6 for his mother. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. After paying off any bequest he may have made or any debt that he may have incurred. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا فريضة من الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما. Your parents and your children, you do not know which of them is likelier to be beneficial for you. This is an ordinance from Allah. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. If you remember previously, Allah mentioned لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ. For men there's a share for whatever the parents and children will leave behind, and for women the same. Now, this was very, of course, concise and needed explanation. This verse gives a detailed explanation how this share, this nasib, is divided between the heirs, being either men or women, parents or children. Now, we have 3 tiers of heirs or inheritors. The first tier, when we say tier, it means that these category of people are the first beneficiary of the inheritance. And if they are available, the next tier, which are also beneficiaries after this category, will not inherit anything. So we have 3 tiers of heirs. The first one, which is explained here, are parents and children. The second tier, if neither of the parents, neither the mother or father, are alive and the deceased has no children, then the second tier, the grandparents and the brothers and sisters, the siblings, are the heirs. Now, in the first tier, for example, if the deceased has had a child, a son or a daughter, who has passed away but has a grandchild, the grandchild will inherit in the case that the children are not alive. So when we say children, their children are also counted in the tier, provided the original children are not alive. The second tier, the same thing. it is the grandparents and the siblings. Now, if the siblings had children but they have died already, then it goes to their children, to the children of the sibling. And the third tier of the inheritors are the aunts and uncles, maternal and paternal. And if they are not available, then their children. Now, of course, even if one uncle or one auntie is alive among several others, the children of those several others will not inherit, because that one aunt or uncle will be the sole heir of the deceased. So these are the tiers. And these are explained in different verses, but this verse specifically talks about the first tier of the heirs. And one other thing that we have to bear in mind, that wife and husband will inherit along with all these tiers. So if the first tier are available and then the wife or husband are alive, then they take their share. And then it goes to the other inheritors in the first tier. The same with the second tier and the same with the third tier of the inheritors. So that was just an explanation of how the heritage is divided among the heirs. And the verse here under discussion explains how this is done regarding the first tier. Now, one may say, why Allah goes into such details about these matters? I mean, explaining and elaborating very minutely about each share and who should inherit who. Is this not something, a worldly matter? And is this not something which people should sort out themselves rather than a religion, a book of God should talk about it? Now, if you remember, the beginning of the surah the opening of the surah began with يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. He created you from one single soul and then created from him his pair, and then وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. And so many men and women were actually reproduced by them and by their children. The surah is talking about this relationship, this very strong, closely knit relationship between people in this world, and then how they have to sort out the things which are related to their livelihood here in this world. So it began with the issue of orphans, and then with the issue of inheritance, and then it goes on with other issues, with the issues of family, wife and husband relation, and these things. And this shows that these are very important because for the spiritual well-being of people. Because the main purpose of religion is to look after the spiritual growth and advancement of people, so that they are placed in the highest positions of paradise. But as long as these matters are not sorted out, then the spiritual matters is not addressed correctly or not taken care of correctly by people. Okay, let's go to the details of this very long verse. يوصيكم الله في أولادكم. يوصيكم wasiya usually means advice, and it is something that you suggest to someone else with some sort of admonishment that it's better to do such a thing. It is in your advantage or something like this. This is the meaning of Isa or wasiya. However, in the Quran, wasiya is used in a in a stronger sense. It's not just an advice or a suggestion. It is usually used as an enjoinment, command, or order, not merely advice and recommendation. In fact, one can say that wasiyya in the Quran is never used in the sense of advice. It's a binding command. Like, for example, in Surah Shura, we have that شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك وما وصينا به إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى. This وصينا إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى. وصى نوحا. These are commandments, orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, binding, or you may say binding advice, that they have to act accordingly. So this yusikumullah has a sense of, first of all, admonishment, that this is what is in your benefit. You have to do it. As the verse later on says, Awa'ukum wa abna'ukum la tadruna ayyuhum aqrabu lakum naf'a. Your parents and your children, you do not know which of them is likely to be beneficial for you. It means that there are certain relations here that you may not you may not deeply understand the strength of these connections, because sometimes we think that, okay, a wife and a husband have a stronger relation than a person's relation between siblings or parents or children or anything like that. But here Allah is actually clarifying that for us. Yusikum, it is in your benefit, but of course it's a command. It's a command which is in your benefit. Yusikumullah fi awladikum. Allah is advising you or instructing you or enjoining you regarding your children. This wasiyya is also used in more much more important issues, like, for example, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Do not kill a soul, a person that Allah has kept, made haram for you, or has kept a respect for that soul, for that person in this world. You should not kill them. Then he says, ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ. Allah is making this isa to you. And wasa or wasiyya it implies more than just a command. It's a command which involves benefit, which involves admonishment, which is advising you as well. So that is the meaning of wasiyya. Yusikumullah fi awladikum lidhakari mithlu hadhil unthayain. Now there is a very delicate issue here. You remember we said that the verse which said لِلرَّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ. It was a shocking sort of statement for the Arabs, because they could not even imagine that a woman could inherit. Now here, لَلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنثَيَيْنِ is used a very delicate matter, and that is the original share. It actually establishes this. The original share is for the female, and then the male would inherit twice as female. So the share of the the share of a female has been set as the benchmark, and then the other share of the male heirs is actually compared to that. لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنثَيَيْنِ. So this is actually putting a red line, putting off all the ideas that women should not inherit and the inheritance should go to men only. Otherwise, it could have said it differently, that a female should inherit half a male. But why a male should inherit twice a female? Because the female's inheritance is the benchmark, and it is importantly pointed out here. فإن كن نساء للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. For a male child, there will be twice the share of a female child. Why this has been set like that? Why not equal? Well, the reason is very clear. If we look at it in the organic system of Islamic laws. Now, in this organic system which is very strongly knit and related to each other, because the nafaqa, the provision of the family, is on the shoulder of the father. So, and usually when people die, their children have families, they have their own children, and then the responsibility of earning bread for the family is on the shoulder of the male. So the male would inherit twice as female. Now, you may say that this is not very universal. In many cases, we have, for example, families who have who have a mother looking after them, or usually sometimes it happens that the male doesn't work and the husband doesn't work and the wife works, and it is not fair in this case for the female to take half. Well, you know that laws are always legislated based on the general situation of the society, and also based on other elements of law. It may happen that a woman be the breadwinner of the family. It may happen that sometimes, for example, we have single parent family and female only has to provide. But what Islam wants to establish is that the original, the basic requirements for a family to be flourishing is that mother should have more time for children, and father should work and provide. And that's why nafaqa is on the husband. Even if the wife is working and she has her own income, still the nafaqa is on the shoulder of the husband. And this system is supported by other elements of law, like this one. للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين فإن كن نساء فوق اثنتين. If there are two or more women. Now, نساء فوق اثنتين means اثنتين وفوقهما. This is what usually the commentators have said. فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَ مَا تَرَكَ. For them is the 2/3 of their inheritance. Of course, as we said, the shares are divided like this. First of all, the share of wife and husband is put aside, and then the rest is divided among the heirs. So, but if there are only children, female children, daughters, then they would take 2/3 of the inheritance. Now, what about the other 1/3? Because these calculations are a bit complicated. Now, if they get 2/3 and the husband, for example, may take 1/4, or the wife may take 1/8, and these are combined together, and it's maybe less than 1 after we add everything up, it may be less than 1. Then here we have something which is, we have a situation in which the shares are less than the total of the inheritance. In this case, there is a very strong difference between Sunni and Shi'i view. The Sunni view is that the rest would go to the male relatives of the deceased. And this is called ta'asib from asaba, which are male relatives, whether uncles or brothers or aunts or something like that. But in the Shia fiqh, this is absolutely unacceptable, and the rest, which is more than the shares, which is the remnant of the shares, it goes back to the heirs themselves, the heirs of the first tier. Not to the husband and wife, but the rest of them, it will be divided among them. So, فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ, 2/3 will be distributed among the daughters. وَإِنْ كَانَتْ وَاحِدَةً فَلَهَا النِّصْفُ. And if there is only one daughter, then she would inherit half of the heritage. Now, you can then again combine these together. There's a wife and husband, one parent or two parents, and then only one girl, she will take half, and then you could add up the other the other shares, and it may become more than one or less than one. If there's wife and husband, it may become more than one. And then this is a situation which is called awl, when the amount of the shares will be more than one compared to the inheritance. And then there's another ruling for that, which is not the point of our discussion. Now, this was about the children. وَلَأَبَوَيْهِ لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا السُّدُسُ مِمَّا تَرَكَ إِنْ كَانَ لَهُ وَلَدٌ. For the parents, for each of them there is 1/6. 1/6 if the deceased has children. Now, if this deceased does not have children, then what happens? فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٌ وَوَرِثَهُ أَبَوَاهُ فَلِأُمِّهِ الثُّلُثُ. If he doesn't have any children and the heirs are only the parents, as I said, put husband and wife separately because they will inherit under any circumstances. فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٌ, if there is no child and the only heirs of the parents, then the father will take 2/3 and the mother will take 1/3, provided there is no hajib. Now I will explain that what's the meaning of hajib. Now here we have to mention one other thing, and that is if there are no children, but there are grandchildren, what happens? As I said, because we have members of the first tier here, the parents, then it doesn't go to the grandchildren. Now, فَلَأُمِّهِ الثُّلُثُ, 1/3. However, as I said, this is provided there is no hajib, there is no barrier there. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ فَلِأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. Now, if the deceased has siblings, 2 or more siblings, not 1, 2 or more siblings, then the mother's share will be reduced from 1/3 to 1/6. فَلِأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ. Now, you may say why this happens. That's if there's no children, the father will take 2/3 and the mother 1/3. But if there are siblings, they do not inherit. They do not inherit. However, the share of the mother is reduced to 1/6. And 1/6 and 2/3, you combine it together. And if there's anything left, then you distribute it among the father and mother. Now, the reason is, again, as we said, because the father has the obligation to provide for the children. And the deceased has siblings, more than one sibling, and then the father is responsible there. Now, one point which is important and we usually forget is this. The parent, the father, not mother, the father is responsible to provide for his children if they cannot provide for themselves, even if they are grown up. Even, for example, a father who's 80 years old has to provide for his child of 60 years old if he cannot provide for himself. So this obligation of nafaqa on father is always there. And vice versa, the children have the obligation to provide for their parents if they are poor, if they cannot provide for themselves. Now here, because there are siblings there for the deceased, then certainly the mother is not responsible for them, should not pay anything. But the father is responsible for them. So a greater share than the original share will go to him. So the verse would be that فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٌ, if the deceased has no children, then the father will take tutor, وَوَرِثَهُ أَبَوَاهُ, only the parents, فَلَأُمِّهِ الثُّلُث, for the mother is 1/3, then naturally for the father is 2/3. However, إِن كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ, if he has siblings, the deceased, فَلَأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ, that the mother will take 1/6. Now, all these are من بعد وصية يوصى بها أو دين. Sorry, I mentioned about the hajib. This is why the siblings are called hajib, blockers. They block the total share of the mother and lower the mother's share of inheritance. And the reason is clear, as I mentioned. All these are من بعد وصية يوصى بها أو دين, after everything in terms of debt, in terms of wasiyah, has been addressed. So if the deceased has debts, before even looking into distribution of the heritage, the debts should be paid, and then the rest is divided according to this verse. Now, if, for example, he has made a wasiyah, that, for example, after I die, after I pass away, give such and such amount to charity or to such and such person or whatever, provided it is not more than 1/3, then that should be carried out first, and then the rest of the heritage will be divided among the inheritance. This is من بعد وصية يوصى بها أو دين. Now then, why this type of distribution is advised by Allah, is ordained by Allah. Now, there's a sentence in this verse which explains, although very concisely, why this difference. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا. Your parents and your children, you do not know which of them is likely to be beneficial for you. Now, the commentators have actually suggested many different views about the interpretation of this particular sentence in this verse, which inshallah we leave that for our next session. If we are alive, inshallah. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.